Hello beautiful people. In this video I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about a lot these past few days, and it's about addiction and sensitivity to stimulation. So something that I've discovered about myself is that I am usually a person who is very sensitive to all kinds of impulses, albeit people, music, vibes, atmospheres, all these things, right? And it's called HSP, hypersensitive personality type, and I'm sure a lot of you probably already know what it is. And if not, it's basically that you are more sensitive to inputs from both yourself and other world than normal people. So the way I see it is that your brain is kind of like it interprets signals from your body or from the outside world, and there's an amplifier in between the signal and what you actually perceive. So the input comes in and then your brain amplifies it tenfold maybe, and then you kind of like experience it. So for me personally, that means that I can be extremely happy or extremely angry or like raging, or very sensitive to small changes in people's behavior, or like all these things that other people might not pick up on. Those become a lot more intense for somebody who has HSP. And I don't really like to talk about, like, you know, these categories of people or these disorders or these, like, I don't really like that necessarily, because it then puts you into this kind of box and it's hard to get out of that box or to think outside the box. So I try to not put things into a box. But it can also be helpful to discover this about yourself and then read about it and hear other people talk about it, and you do the research, and you know, like, you gain more insight and awareness about what kind of things that work for you and what have worked for other people. And so it's useful to know that you have this, and sometimes it can be a limiting factor. So I try to use it in a productive manner where I do research about it and learn more about how to kind of deal with this, rather than to see it as a limiting factor or belief system about myself, because I'm very aware that whatever you believe actually will become a reality. So if you see yourself as somebody who is constantly super sensitive to all kinds of things, then you will also probably become that or stay like that. So I think it's important to be aware of the things that are happening, and then taking the bits of pieces of information that are useful for you as a person, and then also try to not fixate too much on it. That's kind of my take. But so this is like a sidetrack that I thought was interesting to share, but the main point of this video is that because I am such a person who is so sensitive to input, I also crave it so much, you know. So when you're very sensitive to a lot of stimulation, you also crave the level of intensity. I mean, it really is something that I've become more and more aware of, is the fact that once you reach a certain level of stimulation, albeit sports, people, relationships, substances, all kinds of stuff, they are very stimulating and they are very, very addictive because of that. And it can be anything, like it can be a person in a relationship. That is something that I recently discovered because of my breakup. That is that I was addicted to the stimulation that the relationship provided me with. And it's not only the sex or the intimacy or all of that, no, it's also the small differences in behavior of my partner, or maybe she is feeling a little bit off today and then she reacts in a specific way, and this all input, you know, it's all stimulation for my system, because I adapt to the way she reacts, and then maybe we have an argument, or we talk about something, or we share something, or there is this, you know, common goal, or we go somewhere. All these things, they are very, very stimulating, way more stimulating than being by yourself. and not having this input of another person all the time, you know. Like when you're alone, traveling alone somewhere, it's also pretty stimulating because the environment changes constantly. But now during these corona times where everybody needs to kind of stay inside and you can't really move around all the time, there's a lot less stimulation. And especially when you're used to living with someone and now you're not anymore, then all the stimulation is kind of like removed all of a sudden. And this is the thing that I realized, that because of the breakup, you really go through a withdrawal period. It's so crazy to think about it. Like, it's really withdrawing from a drug. The constant stimulation, the high level of stimulation of your partner is all of a sudden, it completely disappeared, and now you have to deal with a lower level of stimulation, and that causes withdrawal symptoms. So you constantly think about her, you're trying to reestablish a connection, or you're trying to look for signs that can recreate that kind of stimulation. You know, your brain is super smart, and it can find so many ways to try to re-establish this stimulation, this level of stimulation. But when the person is gone, like they don't want you to contact them, and they are not replying, or sorry, they told you very clearly that, hey, I don't want you to talk to me anymore, then you have no other choice. Well, you basically have, but then again, it's a you have to figure out the right balance between your values and your needs, kind of, because I value respecting other people's their wishes or something. I think it's very important. So if she tells me I don't want you to talk to me, then I have to respect that, both for her and for myself. So I had no other choice than to deal with the withdrawal, you know, like I had to become okay with this lower level of stimulation. And there is so much things to be learned in that process. Like, this is something that I really came to realize, that is that by going through this phase, I all of a sudden start to realize there is so many other things that I almost compulsively do in order to get a certain level of stimulation. Like, I exercise too much because of the stimulation it provides me. Sometimes I eat way too much because of the stimulation it provides me. Like, there are so many things that I do in order to get to this higher level of stimulation, but it's not sustainable because there goes a lot of energy into sustaining that kind of level of vibration, you know? Like, to constantly operate here, you have to constantly add energy to it. It's like a guitar, you know? Like, if you have this normal guitar, an electric guitar, it sounds very quiet when you play it, but then you have to like connect it to an amp, you know, and then the amp, because you add energy, external energy, electricity to it, power, you power it up, then the guitar becomes much louder. But you need this external energy source in order to sustain the level of intensity, the amplitude of the sound, right? So the amplitude of stimulation for me is here all the time, constantly. Relationships, sex, working out, eating, all these stimulating things, and usually they are also connected to survival. You know, you want food, mating, all these things. They're all the things that make us feel good. They're usually in some way connected to our survival. So because we as humans evolved by doing things that we like, and things that perpetuate our species, they usually feel good, like having sex, eating food, stuff like that. So usually these things that we like, they provide a high level of positive stimulation. But the thing with these things is that if you are constantly trying to maintain this level of high stimulation, it's very, very draining. Like, it requires a lot of energy. And at some point, some people, they are able to sustain it for a long time, and then all of a sudden they break. They either kill themselves, or they run into problems, or whatever, something happens, right? And then they're unable to sustain it, or they just stop existing, which is very sad in a way. Like, a lot of artists end up there because they are living this super intense, high energy lifestyle, and all of a sudden they cannot take it anymore, or something bad happens to them, and then they die, right? And it's very sad in a way, because they never had the opportunity to tone down the intensity and to realize that you can feel as good in the low. That's what I want to talk about. You can feel as good in this lower level of stimulation as you do here, but it's a lot more sustainable. It's like so much more peaceful, and I'm not there yet, not at all. Like, I'm still working on it every single day, and it's it takes a lot of time and effort and thinking and putting in the right information and doing the right things. I mean, the things that I believe are right. So there's always, you know, like, what I do and know is not necessarily the truth. Like, every truth is a half truth. That's a quote from the Kabbalion, if I remember correctly. So that is also something that I try to live by. Every truth is just a half truth. Like, you can never be sure, but I like to believe that what I do is the best for me right at this time, kind of. So what I wanted to say is that sometimes life just forces you to reduce the level of stimulation. For instance, you get a breakup, or you do an overdose and you end up in hospital, or you get hospitalized, or whatever, something happens, right? Something happens, and you are forced to distance yourself from the thing that is so stimulating. Like, it can be the person in your relationship, it can be the drugs, it can be the food, it can be the exercise. Some athletes, they get injured, right? And they also go through this phase of withdrawal, like an athlete who is training every day, and then they injure their legs and they can't run anymore. And then they go through a phase of doubt, of depression. They feel fucked up because they lost this stimulation that provided them with a lot of positive things. But at some point you cannot sustain this high level of energy, and that is your body's way of telling you, hey, it's too much, I have an injury now, you gotta slow down, you gotta take it easy. And you gotta realize that at the lower, there will be a phase of adaptation, you know, from this level to this level. It's gonna take a while for your body to adapt, to realize that, okay, it's fine to be here, you don't have to continuously stimulate me until this level, right? It's the same thing when you are eating something tasty or something. But if you eat too much, like in the beginning, it's very, very nice and very tasty, but if you keep eating it, you desensitize your receptors, like the receptors in your tongue, they become desensitized, they become overstimulated, and after a while you stop kind of tasting, or it starts to feel irritated even, and then you have to like stop and let them adapt again to the lower level of stimulation. Because if you constantly keep it smashing with this super tasty food, then your tongue will get overstimulated and will not be pleasant anymore. Like, the danger there is that if you just let it adapt just enough to then again pick up the high level of stimulation, that's where you constantly stay in this high frequency, this high energy band of stimulation, right? But if you then actually decide to prolong this fasting period, because that's what it is actually, like, if you decide to, okay, right now I'm gonna stop eating this stimulating food and then I'm gonna fast. You can do it with anything. You can do it with drugs, you can do it with people, you can do it with sports, whatever it is, right? Sometimes life forces you to fast. In the case of a relationship ending, you are forced to fast on the relationship. I mean, of course you can open Tinder and you can talk and this and that, but it's not the same thing. Like, it's not the same. And some people, for them maybe it is the same and they can immediately rebuild this kind of level of stimulation, but then you're perpetuating the problem. And I believe that eventually, probably, life will present you, it's like, check, you know, it will come down at some point somehow. And so what I like or prefer to do is to address the problems in the first place, and then become okay with the lower level of stimulation. And it is possible. I really believe it is possible. It takes time, and I'm not there yet. But when you allow yourself to adapt and to really realize that, okay, I don't need this high level of stimulation to feel good, I can tone it down and then pay attention to other things, like, for instance, meditating, gratitude, just your daily activities. Like, just about now, I did the dishes, and I was thinking to myself, okay, let me just pay attention to what it feels like, the water. This is something nice because I'm cleaning up my place, and it's an experience, you know. Like, you try to interact with the tools and the sponge and stuff like that, and it's like a meditative thing. And then I realized, like, this is also like a pleasant a pleasant activity, because usually I'm like, ah, fuck the dishes, I hate it. Especially if my mom asks me like, hey, do you want to do the dishes? Fuck no, I don't want to do the dishes right now, like don't ask me. But, and this is something totally different, and another video that I will talk about. Anyways, so, but if I consciously decide, okay, let me do this, and I stop resisting doing the dishes, and I just experience what it feels like, and maybe I listen to some nice music or a YouTube video, somebody talking about something that I'm interested in, and then it becomes this enjoyable activity, and that is beautiful, that's wonderful. Like if you realize that you can have a good time with whatever you're doing, and you realize that your thoughts are causing the resistance and the suffering and the bad feelings. Usually it's just the thoughts, or the thoughts you're having about the activity, right? I could have been doing the dishes and be like, ah, fuck, I need to do the dishes, I hate this so much, this and that. Then it would be 20 minutes of pure suffering and pure agony, and I would get frustrated. But since I made the decision, okay, I want to make it clean, I want to make my kitchen look clean, and I enjoy this, and I can listen to something that I like listening to, and this is a fun activity, then it's 20 minutes of meditation and added happiness. And that's amazing. Like it's amazing if you realize that. Like, and you can do this with anything, you know? You can like walking to the grocery store, or picking up your kids, or whatever it is. Like any activity you do, you can either decide to make it a fucking torture, and you can resist it, and you can feel bad about it. And I'm not saying that I never do this. I still do this. Ah, fuck, I have to do something I don't want. So much resistance, I don't like it. But if you become aware of this, and then you make a conscious decision to, okay, hey, this is what I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna give it my full attention, and I'm gonna enjoy what I'm doing, that is so powerful. It's so powerful. And like the awareness really allows you to realize that in the moment, you know. And then you can catch yourself, oh shit, I'm feeling frustrated or bad about this specific task or whatever it is, and then you can like, wait a minute, let me just try to find something in this that I can enjoy, you know, whatever it is. Like, oh, my feet touching the floor, or maybe the weather, or the smell, or just the fact that I'm being productive, or that I do something for someone I care about, whatever it is. Like try to come up with something that makes it at least a little bit enjoyable for yourself, and then focus on that. Go focus on that. Where your attention goes, that is so powerful. Like these days, attention is the most valuable currency, because like attention equals power, equals love, equals so many different things. And you can see it, for instance, with apps like Instagram and Facebook. They try to keep your attention there. They make these flashy, you know, moving images, and then the stories, and then this and that. Like people are constantly trying to capitalize on people's attention, because that's where energy goes, you know. Attention, that's where the energy flows. It's money, it's love, it's all these things, you know. Like attention is really the most valuable currency of these times, I believe. Or at least one of the most valuable currencies. So where you put your focus, that is what's gonna cause you to pay more attention to, and to really make a change in the way you feel and the way you behave. And so to come back to the original point I was trying to make, is that if you feel like you are a person who is very sensitive to inputs from either yourself, like your feelings, your emotions, or the outer world, small changes in people's attitude or behavior, or the atmosphere, all these things, if you feel like you're very, very sensitive to that, chances are that you're also struggling with at least a few addictive behaviors, or things that you feel very much drawn to, but you know are not really good for you. Like you can like an addiction, usually it becomes an addiction whenever it starts to negatively impact your life. Like, you know, like if you have maybe a porn addiction, and you are 50 minutes late to every meeting because of you had to jerk off before you go there. This is becoming a problem, you know. But we all have these tendencies to flock towards things that makes us feel good. So it's about finding the things that make you feel good without impacting the rest of your life, you know, without negatively damaging relationships with other people or with yourself, whatever it is, right? So it's okay to sometimes watch porn and jerk off and feel good about it, but if you feel like it's compulsive and you gotta do it every single day, and it makes you feel bad afterwards, then then it's not a good thing. And we know this, like intuitively we know, oh, I should actually not be doing this, it's not productive, it doesn't make me feel good about myself, but I can't seem to stop this, I can't seem to stop. And that is the most important thing, like realizing that you actually do have the power to stop. It requires a ton of work, a ton of discipline, and a ton of awareness. So the thing that I right now like to implement, and so this is a practical tip for you out there who is trying to find out ways to deal with this, because intuitively you know it's not good for you, and you feel helpless, you feel powerless, you cannot seem to stop this behavior, to get over it, right? I feel you. I 100% understand what you're going through. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. And one day you say like, now is the last day it's going to happen, and the next day you're doing it again. You're doing it again. So it's hard, and it's okay to fail. All right. It's okay to set the intention and then to try it, and maybe like not. It's fine. Like some people, they can like snap their fingers and from one day to another they completely stop their negative behaviors. I'm not like that, not at all. And I have a lot of admiration for people who can do that. For me, it's not working. So I have to come up with other ways to deal with this. And for me, it's more of a process rather than just like, sometimes maybe it's possible that I all of a sudden stop doing something immediately, but most of the time it's not like that. So a practical tip for you, if you are going through this and dealing with similar difficulties, is I wrote down a list of things that make me feel good. So it can be take a shower, go for a walk, call a friend, create something. Like making these videos, for me, it's something that makes me feel good. I enjoy doing this. It's fun, it's nice. Like I can share something, I can talk about something. Like this is also something that became very clear, is that whenever you're teaching something, you learn it yourself. You learn to master it yourself better. So that's also why I'm doing this, you know. I'm kind of like teaching myself because I'm talking to myself, but also talking to you who is watching this. And by verbalizing my thoughts, it gets ingrained in my system more, and I gain a better understanding of everything that I'm talking about. So it's for me, it's enjoyable. I like doing it. I learn something from it, and hopefully I can inspire you to do the same, or to gain a little bit more insight or awareness, whatever it is, right? I hope this is something positive for you too, because for me it is, it really is. So this is also on my list. I like to create something, write something, record a video, talk about it, whatever, right? So whenever I feel like I want to do something that is not good for myself, like I feel like I want to compulsively eat something, or like, you know, I'm not even hungry but I want to eat something tasty, and it's actually not good, because when I will eat it I will feel fucked up in my stomach, or I will feel sluggish, and it's not productive. Then I just take out my list, and it's still a work in progress. Like I am not 100% foolproof with this stuff at all. Like no, sometimes I'm just like, ah fuck, I'm gonna eat it anyways. I don't care about my list, you know, it's fine. But I try to really implement this, and then I take out my phone and I look through my list, and then I'm like, okay, this, no, I don't feel like doing this, okay, and then okay, here is something that I can do right now and that I know I want to do, and so I go do it. And then it's such an amazing feeling to realize, okay, I can consciously decide to make myself feel better without having to rely on this automatic compulsive behavior, you know. It's so powerful, because if you condition yourself to do that every time you feel an impulse to do a self-destructive behavior, and you can then instead replace it, because that's what you want to do. You want to replace this impulse. You want to replace this impulse with something productive, with something that makes you feel good. Not necessarily productive. I mean, to me, doing something that makes you feel good is productive in a way, if it's not the behavior that you think will make you feel good. If that makes sense, right? It's not the destructive behavior that makes you feel good for a bit and then afterwards you feel like shit. It's more like something that builds you up, that is empowering, that is causing you to feel more alive, to feel more motivated, to feel excited about life, you know. This, in my opinion, is productive. Even if it's taking a shower or going for a walk, you don't necessarily be productive. You're not necessarily productive in a sense of, I don't know, it will make you money or whatever, but it will be productive in terms of your own personal growth, you know. It will be serving you. It will be an empowering act to do that. And so every time, if you condition yourself, whenever you feel the urge to do a self-destructive behavior, and you replace it with something that is productive in the way I just described, then it will become more and more of a habit, and you will see that it will compound. There is this interesting meme quote kind of thing where you see like 1 to the power of the comma 1 or something equals, I don't know the numbers, it doesn't really matter, 117 or something, and then 1 to the power of 1 stays 1. So what it means, like 1 to the power of 1 comma 1 comma 01 something, what it comes down to basically is that tiny steps taken every day compounded over a long period of time. Yeah, it's this 1 to the power of 365 yes, equals 1, and 1 comma 01 to the 365 is, I don't know the number by heart, but it means that if you take small incremental improvements every day, you will have a huge improvement by the end of the year, for instance. And if you don't do that, you stay the same. You stay the same. And in my opinion, staying the same is going backwards. And there is also nothing bad with going backwards a little bit, like regressing, because I've judged myself for that, like, oh, I feel I'm not like moving forward. But then again, I'm probably am, because I'm learning and you're constantly growing. But like, if you're not putting in the effort and the time to educate yourself, to try out new things, to build new habits, to do some things that are positive for you and the world around you, then you will kind of stay the same. You will stay stuck, and it's fine to feel like you're stuck. And it's okay to sometimes not feel motivated to want to do anything about it, because sometimes it feels good to feel stuck, because then you don't open yourself up for the possibility of failure, kind of, right? If you decide I will not even try, then you can also not fail. But what you don't realize, or what I didn't realize, is by not trying you're already failing. So you better increase the chances of success rather than want to have a 100% failure rate. You know, you'd rather take action towards achieving something than to not, and then to feel good about not failing, because when you do that, you are failing. So that is an interesting insight that I came to realize. And so now I actually just do stuff that I think will bring me closer to the things that I want to achieve, and I don't sit down and do nothing because I am afraid that it will fail. Because by attempting and by doing, you learn, and you course correct. You know, you do something and it feels good, and you keep doing it. Like making these videos, it feels good for me, really. I know this is something that I want to do, and I know this is giving my life a more meaningful feeling. It feels more meaningful to me to do these things, and even if it doesn't bring me anything else than it's bringing me right now, I'm totally fine with that. Like I have detached right now. I mean, it may change in the future, but right now I have no attachment to what this will bring me. This is just me talking to you and hopefully helping you out. And if my videos never reach any one of you, that's also perfectly fine. Like, this is just something that I enjoy doing, and I think that is what is important. So I kind of lost my train of thought here, but what I guess what I wanted to say is that it's okay to procrastinate, it's okay to feel stuck, and it's okay to also want to stay there even if you know that you shouldn't. It's fine, it's a comfortable place to be in. I've been there, many of us have been there, many of us are still there. I sometimes am still there. That's okay. And just try to, at least, maybe even if it's once a month, try to like decide to be a little bit spontaneous and be like, okay, fuck this shit, I've been doing this for 30 days, doing nothing and feeling shit about it, and let me just try something else just for one day, just give it a shot, you know, and then maybe you feel total crap and you can go back to 30 days of doing nothing. Or you feel like, oh hey, this was actually quite interesting and it felt good, even if it's like a little bit. Well, if you experience that and you're paying attention and you're aware, then go do that a little bit more, maybe 2 days a month, you know, or 3 days a month. It doesn't matter, something, right? 1,01 to the power of 365 equals so much more than 1 to the 300 power 65, whatever, right? You know my point, you see my point. So yeah, that is just a fairly long